In the early 2000s, the zombie movie genre had seen a bit of a resurgence, beginning with 2004's Dawn of the Dead through the release of 2009's Zombieland. Starring Emma Stone, Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg, and Abigail Breslin, Zombieland was a comedy movie with a lot of heart that captivated the minds of critics and audiences alike. On its release, it became the highest grossing zombie film in the United States at that time. Zombieland tells the story of how four folks surviving the zombie apocalypse go on an epic journey that eventually bonds them as family. Now, after a long wait and multiple false starts, including a failed Amazon Prime series, the original cast returns in the sequel, Zombieland Double Tap, which resumes the story 10 years later of this ragtag family as they attempt to survive in a fictionalized, zombie-ravaged United States. I'm Ronald Young Jr., and this is Leaving the Theater. What's up, y'all? I am leaving the theater after Zombieland Double Tap, and I have a few thoughts. First of all, it's late. It's 11:52. Came to a 9:50 showing. Saw in the Dolby Cinema. Best way to see a movie, in my opinion. Great sound, great picture, all that stuff. Movie was good. Really liked it. From the opening shot, one thing I noticed was as soon as the movie started, for those of you that like the original Zombieland, as soon as the movie starts, it just puts you right back in that feeling. And I realized, and when I say feeling, I mean you feel like you're back in the world of Zombieland. And if you liked the first one, then you'll like that. I think the reason why that happened is because this movie has the same director, same writing team, same cast. And it's rare that with sequels that you get that anymore. It really is. Typically with movies, you'll get a sequel because people really like it and they'll change up the director, change up people and all that. And it'll be like, it wasn't good as the first one. This movie was every bit as good as the first one. In some ways, it was a little bit better. They introduced new characters played by Rosario Dawson, Luke Wilson, Zoey Deutch, I think her name is. And all of them were great. The characters did not take away from the story. They had a few subplots going that were all very entertaining, which was good. The flow of the story went well. At one point, I'm sitting there watching and I realized I'm looking at Emma Stone, who is now an Oscar winner. In the 10 years since they made this, she's won an Oscar. Jesse Eisenberg has branched out and done a couple things. Woody Harrelson doing a couple things. So all these guys are out here, working hard, and they come back to this movie where they played these characters before, and their craft has gotten just so much better. And it's weird because they're in a comedy movie, but they're taking it seriously and they're doing a great job. So funny, just like the first one. Lots of references to the first one, but not so many that they were alienating. I was sitting there watching it and I was like, I'm pretty sure somebody could watch this and enjoy this movie, even if they hadn't seen the first one. I will say you will enjoy it more if you have seen the first one. So I think that's good. When a sequel makes it good enough for you to enjoy by itself, and that doesn't alienate new people from coming in and watching it, but also embracing all the people that did watch it with a bunch of references to his rules and stuff from the first movie, which I think was great. I also like the fact that this movie, and I guess I didn't notice this before, how much this movie really embraces its own absurdity. I love zombie movies. Love them. Love every single one of them. Because they always seem like puzzles to me. Like, how are they going to get out of this? How are they going to escape the zombies? How are they going to do it? They're going to climb this tall building? What are they going to do? How are they going to get out of this? And that's why I've always liked these. And what I like about this movie is there's a lot of stuff like The Walking Dead, there's Dawn of the Dead, and all these ones that take the idea of the zombie movie very seriously. And so they always want to play into the psyche of how the power dynamics will shake out in a zombie apocalypse. And they don't really just get into the fact that this is completely absurd. You know, when they start off the movie, they start off as absurd as they did the last one, with where they decide to take up residence in the beginning of this movie. So they embrace the absurdity of a world in which people die and then get up. And so you have to kill them again. So I love that it embraces that absurdity. It does it in multiple ways, both in the travels that they take, the circumstances of the world they live in, even the way they interact with each other. It all embraces that absurdity. And what I like is it doesn't do that thing that a lot of zombie movies are prone to doing, which is just like, well, the people are now more dangerous than the zombies. Or like with Walking Dead, where you've just kind of like forgotten that zombies exist and they're not really as much of a factor as other humans are anymore, you know. But Zombieland firmly places relationships at the center of the movie, but it doesn't leave the zombies far behind, which I really, really enjoyed. I thought it was, like I said before, I thought it was great acting. I will say the one drawback for me was that this movie was made 10 years ago, 2009. The first one, Zombieland, was made 2009. This one just made this year, 2019. 10 years have passed, and there's not much acknowledgement of the passage of time. In some ways, I felt like they didn't acknowledge how much time passed between when they were at Pacific Playland and when they end up where they are right now. There is an acknowledgement that some time has passed. There's an acknowledgement that they bonded together as a family, but there's no acknowledgement as to the actual amount of time, except in Little Rock's age. That's the character played by Abigail Breslin. That's the only time you get to look and really see, okay, so we all know that a significant amount of time has passed, but we don't exactly know how much, and they don't really acknowledge that. Now, in everything I've read, it says it's 10 years, but in the movie, they don't really acknowledge that actual quantifiable 10 years, which ends up being not very important, but just as a nitpicky person, I'm sitting there watching, I'm like, man, it seems unusual that they wouldn't at least say, hey, it's been 10 years, you know, or something like that. Yeah, great movie. Don't have a ton to say about it, other than everything I've just said. I will say that if you've seen the first one, you are going to love this one. If you've seen and liked the first one, you're definitely going to love this one. If you did not see the first one, I would recommend watching the first one, then watching this one again, because you'll enjoy it more. But you will enjoy it because lots of jokes, lots of fun to be had watching this movie. But I think the first one sets up the world for you a little bit, and this one just takes you exploring a little more. If they do a third one, they keep all the same people, same directors, same writers, same actors, I trust that they'd be able to make a third great movie. As in a lot of ways, this reminded me of the Toy Story franchise, in which, again, they keep a lot of the core together and keep going, and the stories just get better and better because they let those people expand on the vision that they already had, and this did a lot of that. So, yeah, that's what I thought about Zombieland Double Tap. I give it 4 stars, 4 of 5 stars. You could take your kids, take you can take your preteens and your teens. I don't know about the little kids. There's a couple of scary elements when it comes to zombies, but I don't think there's anything in this movie that's terribly polarizing for kids. Of course, there's zombie violence and all that, but other than that, I think it's pretty easy to watch. If they're terrified by zombies, then don't bring them. But preteens, teens, I think they'll be all right. They'll enjoy the movie and probably laugh a lot. So, yeah. Leaving the Theater is a production of OhitsBigRon Studios. Theme music by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. You can get updates about this show and other OhitsBigRon Studio shows by following me on Twitter and Instagram at OhitsBigRon. That's at OhitsBigRon. If you like this podcast, check out our sister podcast, Time Well Spent. It's available everywhere you get your podcasts, including the method you're listening right now. Leaving the Theater will be back soon. See you at the movies.